In the summer of 2020, I traveled to Berlin, in Germany, shortly after the city had reopened most of its attractions. In this video, I want to show you what visiting Germany is like now and share my top 27 things to do in Berlin. Good morning and welcome to Berlin. We're heading out for the #1 site in Berlin now, which is of course the Brandenburg Gate. The Brandenburg Gate was commissioned by the Prussian King Friedrich Wilhelm II and completed in 1791 as a symbol of peace and as an entrance to the Grand Boulevard unter den Linden. The sculpture on top, called Quadriga, represents the winged goddess of victory on a chariot drawn by 4 horses. Unfortunately, she wasn't always successful at bringing victory and got kidnapped by Napoleon in 1807, only returning to Berlin 7 years later when she was saved by Prussian troops. After the division of Germany after the Second World War, the gate here became trapped right behind the Berlin Wall that separated the eastern and the western part of the city. And now, after the reunification, this is a symbol for the reunified Germany. And yeah, it's really an impressive sight. So here we are now, right in front of the symbol of the modern German democracy. This is the German parliament, the so-called Reichstag. The Reichstag building housed the German parliament from 1894 until 1933, when it burned down under mysterious circumstances at the beginning of the Nazi reign in Germany. After the Second World War, it fell into disuse and was only rebuilt in the 1990s to house the parliament of the reunified Federal Republic of Germany. The glass dome of the Reichstag offers spectacular views of Berlin. Here we are at the Holocaust Memorial, or Memorial to the Murdered Jews of Europe. In my opinion, this is definitely one of the most impressive sites in all of Berlin. Let's take a look inside. Between 1941 and 1945, the German Nazi regime and its collaborators murdered more than 6 million Jews from all over occupied Europe. The Holocaust Memorial in the heart of Berlin is Germany's central memorial to this unimaginable genocide. So now we are inside the Holocaust Memorial, and you might be wondering, why are there no written words anywhere? Why are there no Stars of David, for example, no symbols? Well, it's all about the feeling that you get when wandering around in this field here. And the feeling you get is really like kind of a sense of being disoriented, lost, and this feels really dehumanizing in a way, like all this cold concrete around you. And this is exactly the feeling that the artist Peter Eisenman, who designed this memorial, wanted you to have. If you want more information about the Holocaust, you can visit the excellent information center situated under the Holocaust Memorial. And here I am at the most important non-monument, if you want to call it that, in Berlin. This is the site of the Führerbunker, where Adolf Hitler found shelter before he killed himself in 1945. And there's nothing here. As you can see, it's a parking lot. Germany doesn't really know what to do with this site. Obviously, it has a super dark history. And yeah, the bunker is underground, obviously, and you can't really see it. But this is a very historic place. So we are now at Potsdamer Platz. This square was once part of the border between East and West Germany, so it was completely inaccessible, and rebuilding the square was one of the most ambitious architectural projects of the 1990s, and I think the result was spectacular. Today, Potsdamer Platz houses lots of offices, theaters, cinemas, hotels, apartments, and museums. One of the architectural highlights of the area is the Sony Center, with its tent-like glass roof and a pretty cafe-ring plaza. The Sony Center also features the popular Museum of Film and Television. So now I'm gonna find a scooter and then we're gonna head over to Checkpoint Charlie. By walking, it would have taken me around 19 minutes from the Potsdamer Platz to here to the Checkpoint Charlie, and now with the scooter it was just 6 minutes. It's amazing. So these scooters open up a world of possibilities and you can save so much time. I highly recommend taking them if you're traveling to Berlin. Here we are at the Checkpoint Charlie. That was once the most important checkpoint between the two Berlins, between the Soviet sector and the American sector. So right there behind me you can see the portrait of an American soldier. We're in the Soviet sector, so American soldiers looking into the Soviet sector. And then on the other side, when we're in the former American sector, you would see the portrait of a Soviet soldier looking into the American sector. So yeah, this is a potent symbol of the Cold War. And for a brief moment, in 1961, American and Soviet tanks faced off here during what became known as the Berlin Crisis, getting the world close to a Third World War, but luckily this never happened. So after a quick scooter ride, we are now on Museumsinsel, Museum Island. This island has several amazing art museums and it also has one of the most important churches of Berlin. This is the Berlin Cathedral, der Berliner Dom. Berlin Cathedral from 1905 is the largest Protestant church in Germany. Commissioned by the last German Emperor, Kaiser Wilhelm II, it was severely damaged during the Second World War and only partly rebuilt afterwards. The church's basement houses the Hohenzollern crypt, which is the final resting place of 94 members of Germany's former royal family. Check out the view, it's amazing. And here we are in one of the most beautiful squares of Berlin. This is the Gendarmenmarkt, named after a regiment of French refugees that were fighting in the Prussian army in the 18th century. And it is a beautiful square with two big cathedrals, a French cathedral and a German cathedral, and it also has the Konzerthaus, a big concert hall. Really a beautiful square. For dinner, I decided to head over to the Augustiner am Gendarmenmarkt, which is a popular Bavarian restaurant right next to the square. Of course, I got the proper German beer, that was 1 liter. It's not really pure beer though, I got beer mixed with lemonade because, yeah, I still need to do a lot of sightseeing for you tomorrow. But cheers guys! Food arrived and I ordered a really traditional southern German dish. This is Schweinebraten mit Kartoffelknödel, so roasted pork with dumplings and a dark beer sauce. It looks really good. So I'm starting the day off today with a nice German breakfast here at the Bäckerei, at the bakery. I got a piece of cake and a so-called Rosinenschnecke, which is a baked pastry with frosting, and it looks super good. So now here we are at the Gedenkstätte Berliner Mauer, the Berlin Wall Memorial. The wall was built almost exactly on this day, 59 years ago in 1961, to keep the German citizens of Eastern Germany locked into their own country because so many of them had escaped to the west.
Between 1949 and 1961, Socialist East Germany, the so-called GDR, lost 3.6 million people who emigrated to Western Germany looking for a better life. A number so high that it put the GDR on the brink of collapse. In a desperate attempt to stop the immigration, the GDR government decided to lock its population into the country by constructing a fortified border system and giving its soldiers strict orders to shoot anyone who would try to cross it.
So here we are at the window of remembrance. This is a memorial to the brave people who lost their lives trying to escape from the GDR. And what's really shocking about this memorial is that a lot of these people are really young. Some are only children, and they still lost their lives trying to cross the border. Many of them were shot, or they drowned, or got killed in other ways while trying to cross the wall or the German fortified border. And yeah, it's a really moving memorial here at the Gedenkstätte Berliner Mauer.
Other important parts of the Berlin Wall Memorial are a 70-meter-long reconstructed section of the border fortifications, the documentation center, and the modern Chapel of Reconciliation.
So it's time for the most iconic dish from Berlin, and that is of course Currywurst, and it looks so delicious. I'm here at the Kottbusser Tor, which is one of the best places to get it. Let's try it. So good. This Currywurst is excellent.
After lunch, I stopped for a quick drink next to the River Spree.
And I got myself another Berliner Weiße. This is the version with woodruff, and it's green, as you can see.
The Berliner Weiße is a refreshing, slightly sour beer that is usually served with either green woodruff or red raspberry syrup.
Let's try it. It's really nice and refreshing. I like the taste. It's kind of sweet, mixed with the beer, a little bit sour, really tasty. Alright, as you can see, we're next to the river, next to the Spree, as it's called in German, and we're gonna do a little boat tour for 1 hour. I think it's gonna be really cool. Let's go on a river cruise around Museum Island.
I really enjoyed this relaxing tour of the center of Berlin that covered many famous sites like the Berlin Cathedral, the TV Tower, the Reichstag, and the Chancellor's office. Most boats leave on the eastern side of Museum Island, close to the GDR Museum. The boat company I used was called Reederei Hadinsky. I'll include a link to the company and all the other sites that I mentioned in this video in the description below.
And I'm crossing the bridge here now to get back to Museumsinsel, Museum Island, and we are gonna visit the Neues Museum, the new museum now, with one really famous exhibit.
Together with the equally famous Pergamon Museum, the Neues Museum is the main attraction on Museum Island. Its undisputed star is the 3,300-year-old bust of the eternally beautiful Egyptian queen Nefertiti. The museum also features lots of other Egyptian sculptures and prehistoric artifacts, like the 3,000-year-old Berlin gold hat, which is covered in astrological symbols and might have helped ancient priests calculate the movements of the sun and moon.
Here we are in the most famous square of Berlin. This is Alexanderplatz. It's the very heart of Berlin with lots of shopping malls around here, and it's super busy every day.
Once the most important square of East Berlin, Alexanderplatz is today the most visited area of the reunified city and one of the busiest squares in all of Europe. Shopping options on the square include the giant Alexa shopping mall and a big Galeria Kaufhof department store.
And now I'm at a really famous landmark of Berlin. This is the Weltzeituhr, the world clock that can be used to determine the local time in 148 cities around the world.
And then it was already time for dinner.
So I'm here now at the Braufaktum, which is a craft beer and burger place. I got this Colonia summer beer and it's really tasty. Cheers! So good, this is the pulled pork burger. So nice. And sweet potato fries.
Next, I met up with my good friend Jesko to go for a typical Berlin-style bar hop.
We are at the Kottbusser Tor now. The Berliners call it Kotti. It's a great place for going out. There's lots of bars. And the cool thing is, Jesko used to live here. So do you know maybe a cool place where we could go?
Let's go to the street with all the bars.
Excellent. So we looked around a little bit. We found this really nice craft beer bar called Biererei, and we got a nice local beer called Weiße. So, Prost! Prost!
After checking out a few more bars, we walked over to the Admiralbrücke.
So I lost count a bit of how many beers I've had today, but this is probably going to be the last one. This is a Berliner Kindle Radler, so once again beer mixed with lemonade. And I must say this bridge is a super nice place, so thanks to Jesko for recommending it. And yeah, I think this is a great second night in Berlin. So cheers, and then I'll see you again tomorrow. Good night, guys. So we are today at one of my all-time favorite sites in Berlin. This is the East Side Gallery. It's the largest open-air mural art gallery in the world. The way this came to be is in 1989, the wall finally came to an end. It was opened and destroyed for the most part, but 1.3 kilometers of wall were preserved here and painted by international artists, and it's so beautiful. Such a nice place to discover on a warm, sunny afternoon like today, and that's what we're gonna do right now. So let's check out the East Side Gallery.
A lot of the murals of the East Side Gallery are quite political and express ideas of freedom, peace and tolerance. Some of the most famous ones are Vrubel's satiric depiction of the fraternal kiss between GDR and Soviet leaders Honecker and Brezhnev, Alawi's It Happened in November, Noir's Homage to the Young, and Klingenstein's Detour to the Japanese sector.
And this is another really famous mural by Birgit Kinder, and it shows a Trabant car, the typical Eastern German car, breaking through the Berlin Wall into freedom, and the license plate reads 9th of November 1989, which is the date of the fall of the Berlin Wall.
I took the S-Bahn to Charlottenburg and decided to have another very typical dish from Berlin for lunch.
And now we're at a place that a lot of people say is Berlin's best kebab. Alright, let's see if that's true. It's called Superhahn. Wow, this kebab looks so good. The Döner, as you would say in German. So nice. Looks so good and fresh. Oh wow. This is delicious. It's so good. You can really tell it's fresh, high quality ingredients. I'm so happy. It's delicious. made it. This is Schloss Charlottenburg, or Charlottenburg Palace in English. It's the former residence of the Prussian kings. Prussia played a leading role in the unification of Germany in the 19th century, and this was the castle of the royal family.
The palace's most beautiful rooms are the private quarters of King Frederick the Great in the new wing. They include the Whitehall banquet room and the Golden Gallery, a Rococo fantasy of mirrors and golden decorations. Other attractions of the palace include the more somber winter chambers, the Baroque Old Palace, and the Palace Park, which is perfect for a long stroll in summer.
And now I'm here in front of the Kaiser Wilhelm Gedächtniskirche. This was once a magnificent church, but during a bombing in 1943 it was almost completely destroyed, and the leftovers serve as an anti-war memorial today. It is pretty impressive and definitely worth a visit.
After its destruction during the Second World War, the remains of the Kaiser Wilhelm Gedächtniskirche were stabilized, and in the 1960s a modern octagonal hall of worship and a bell tower were added.
So I'm now walking down the so-called Kudamm, Kurfürstendamm, which is one of the most famous shopping streets in Berlin. It's really beautiful, lots and lots of shops. So if you're into shopping, this is definitely the place for you in Berlin. We're gonna start our day off really sweet today with a trip to Rittersport Bunte Schokowelt. Rittersport is my favorite kind of chocolate from Germany. I think this is gonna be amazing. Let's take a look inside the shop.
The Rittersport Bunte Schokowelt acts as a fun flagship store for Rittersport and its most famous products. The colorful square 100-gram chocolate bars that are available in seemingly infinite varieties.
And there he's looking for my self-designed chocolate.
Then it was finally time to taste my self-designed Rittersport chocolate bar.
So it has pepper, gummy bears, and M&Ms. And wow.
I took an e-scooter to get to my next destination.
And now I'm standing in the middle of one of the biggest inner city parks in the world. This is the Tiergarten. And right there behind me is one of the major landmarks of Berlin. This is the Siegessäule with the golden winged goddess of victory at the top. The Berliners call her Gold-Else. And yeah, let's go for a little walk around the park. I think it's gonna be really nice to discover it some more. There behind me you can see the original purpose of the park. It used to be the preferred hunting ground for the Prussian kings. Later on it was converted into a public park, and that is what it still serves as today. Now I'm standing in front of the biggest shopping mall in continental Europe. This is the KaDeWe, or Kaufhaus des Westens in German. It is huge, and it also has a legendary food court on the 6th floor, which is great timing because I'm really hungry. So let's get inside and check out what's in store for us at the KaDeWe. And here we are. This is the legendary food hall. decided to have lunch here, and I was in the mood for some Japanese foods to mix things up a little. I'm gonna have some delicious sushi now. So those are my recommendations for Berlin. What are yours? If you're from there or if you've been there before, please make sure to leave your tips and advice in the comment box below this video. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to Max Nomad for new travel videos published every week. I'm Max Nomad, and I will talk to you again soon.